Okay, good evening, students. I wanted to finally post some comments about each of the first three chapters in Unit 1, and I'll break them into three smaller video clips here. But with respect to the first chapter, and I might add that these first three chapters might be the most important three chapters in the entire textbook as far as paralegals for elder lawyers are concerned. So in the first chapter about client confidentiality and client communication, I think there's really two important points for you as paralegals to understand and be familiar with. And number one is, of course, capacity related. And I know capacity is covered in the first chapter. And capacity, again, has to do with the ability of the client to make reasonable personal financial decisions. And for that matter, you're faced with it constantly in elder law, and it shows up when clients are trying to do some estate planning or conduct any other business. And as the paralegal, well, it's the attorney's job, of course, to make sure that the client has capacity and understands what they're doing, and if they're hiring you to do estate planning, that they have the ability to do that. But I think as the paralegal's role, it's just your job perhaps to, if you meet separately with the client and you have concerns about their ability, or you take some cues, you should alert the attorney to that and let them know that you had a question, or that you thought the person wasn't making clear answers or couldn't tell you things clearly. That's one point. And I think the more important point really in chapter 1 is to understand how to conduct estate planning signing meetings. This is a really key role for the paralegals in my office, and it's important to know that when you are signing estate planning documents, and I think we'll cover this later in the term, but when you're signing estate planning documents, you can only have the client in there with you, and that might seem obvious or not worth mentioning really even, but I can tell you that in an elder law practice, it is very, very common for kids to want to sit in, and friends and family and other loved ones and neighbors and whoever they bring to the meeting to sit in there and discuss these things. And it's really important to let the client know, and if you're not comfortable, let the attorney know to have that discussion. They really are the only ones that can be in there discussing those things and signing those things. And as an attorney, it's a difficult conversation. People are concerned that you won't understand their parent, or their parent is shy, and if they're not there to handhold them, that they won't get the point across. But it's our job as attorneys and as paralegals to give that client some comfort and say, look, we want your estate plan to be effective. And if other people are in the room, somebody could challenge this in the future, and nobody wants that. So, give us some time and we'll talk through these issues, and then you can escort the person back out. In my office, I know some offices never let the person accompany the elder in the office in the first place. That's not how we do it at my shop. We'll have a little introductory discussion, and then before we get down to talking about estate planning and what somebody wants to do in their will or their trust or their power of attorney, we'll politely ask the other person to leave. And if you're candid and reasonable and patient with them, people always understand, and they give you space, and they 9 times out of 10 they don't want to appear that they're trying to influence the elder's decision. So most people are reasonable now. Every now and then you'll have a different case, but certainly let the attorney handle that. So I think those are the real two important things in the first chapter are making sure that if you have any questions about capacity, or somebody comes in to sign something quickly, a deed or anything quick, and you have concerns about capacity, that you cue the lawyer. I think that's a decision that the lawyer needs to involve. And then remember these tips about estate planning and signing meetings and confidentiality concerns.